Oh! Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's no graceful way for me to incorporate this into the body of my introduction of Meatloaf, but I feel compelled to let you know that this man, my dear friend, has actually participated in online fantasy bass fishing. It's true, he does. He plays that whole online fantasy football, but bass fishing. So there you go, that's Meatloaf. I'm really honored to be here tonight to present to you, in my opinion, one of the great icons of the music of music in our country and in the world, Meatloaf. Now, although he's a very close friend of mine as well as godfather to my daughter, I sometimes, and I know a lot of people do, they forget who he is. It's not until I'm telling a story about, some golf game we had or just mentioning something he did to friends of mine, and they look at me and they go, "Meat? Are you talking about Meatloaf?" And I realize at that moment what an icon he is. Now, I was introduced to Meat's music in 1978. I know I'm old. And I was stunned at how this music was a genre that defined definition. It was so different. And I thought I was watching a play or a movie as I listened to his music and his voice. And he doesn't like that I say this, but I think Meat's music and vocals are like hearing an incredible, passionate rock and roll opera. Now, by chance, I met him years later at a barbecue in Santa Monica, California, where we spoke for about 3 hours to the chagrin of the other guests because we huddled together and all we talked about the entire time was acting. And he told me what his life and his career had been up to that point. Now, Meat was born as Marvin Leah Day in Dallas on September 27th, 1947. Now, yes, I can see a lot of you in the audience trying to do the math. He's going to be 65, and he will kill me later for telling you that. But the point is that Meatloaf has been a major star. He's been an icon for nearly 40 years in this industry. From when he burst on the scene in the national tour of Hair, and it was at the Public Theater in New York City where he met Jim Steinman, his collaborator in iconic Bat Out of the Hell albums, and he has acted in over 50 films and television shows, such as the Rocky Horror Picture Show, Roadie, Out of Bounds, Wayne's World, Leap of Faith, Spice World, Crazy in Alabama, The Salton Sea, and The Fight Club. Meat is a Grammy Award winner for Best Rock Vocal Performance for the song I'd Do Anything for Love, which reached, now listen to this, it reached #1 in 28 countries. His 1997 album, Bat Out of Hell, has sold over 43 million copies. It's one of the highest selling albums of all time. And 30 years after its release, it still sells. 30 years later, 200,000 copies a year. In 1993, he released Bat Out of Hell 2, Back into Hell, which sold over 15 million albums. Meat and I once went to Mexico for a charity golf tournament, and we'd only been friends for a short time. And the night before, as good Texans tend to do, I drank a lot of tequila. And the next morning, the phone rang at my hotel too early, way too early. And I answered it, and I said, "Hello?" And this quiet voice on the other end said, "Hi." I said, "Who is this?" And he said, "Marvin." And I thought for a second, and I said, "Marvin? I don't know anyone named Marvin." He said, "Oh, right. I'm Marvin until I get my coffee, then I'm Meatloaf." You remember that. Meatloaf once took me to Puerto Rico because he told me he was the greatest rock and roll performer in rock and roll, and so he took me there to see him perform. He invited me backstage with his band, and he showed me his preparation. And it was like getting ready to play in the Super Bowl. He also let me watch him record Bat Out of Hell 2, And I realized at this point that this guy wasn't just a singer, but an artist. He was different. Because if he didn't understand the emotional context of where the character in the song was, or what and why he was saying the things he says, he couldn't sing it. And after watching that, I understood him a lot better. I understood that Meat Loaf is an actor and a rock star. But beneath it all started with his acting. He's performed in theater, radio, TV, and films. He has had a career that most can only dream of. And Meat Loaf is still living that dream. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Marvin Leaday, a.k.a. Michael Leaday, but also popularly known as Meat Loaf. But let's check out some of his performances first, all right?